You clicked for a naval showdown. You're in the right place. Here's the core problem: China didn't just challenge a US destroyer, they picked the wrong kind. Not because of thicker armor, but because of the brain on board. We're breaking down how an integrated Aegis combat system stacks sensors, missiles, and fire control into one lethal feedback loop, why that matters when salvos and decoys start flying, and how a standard hull versus a fully networked warship ends in two different wars. Stay to see the move-by-move timeline that decides who survives the first minute. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You think it's ship versus ship. It's brain versus network. So why challenge the platform built to win the first minute? The center of this fight is a modern Arleigh Burke, Flight IIA edging into Flight 3 territory, running the latest Aegis baseline and fully wired for cooperative engagement capability. That means a deep VLS bank, sure, but the real punch sits in the racks, processors that stitch air, surface, and electronic data into a single fire control grade picture. You're not up against a hull. You're up against software that treats the ocean like a chessboard and moves first. Most people stack specs, displacement, missile tubes, gun caliber, and call it a matchup. That misses the kill chain. The Aegis brain links sensors to weapons with almost no human lag, shares what it sees, and allocates fires while the attacker is still building the run. It's offense and defense routed through a machine that rates threats by behavior, not by guesswork, and pushes the right interceptor without waiting for a vote. Here's the invisible edge. The spy radar family paints the sky and sea with phased array sweeps while staying agile against jammers. Data links ferry tracks in and out, so a target doesn't vanish when the ship hides its own emissions. Passive ESM listens for hostile radars and seekers without making a sound. Helicopters and off-board ISR push bearings and ranges from over the curve, then feed that back as fire-quality truth. Separate inputs become one fused solution. One trigger leads to the right weapon, the right geometry, at the right instant. Now build the kill web. CEC ties sensors across the force so a target tracked by one node can be engaged by another, while Link 16 moves track files, queues, and status in near real time. A single destroyer becomes a node in a wide net where any shooter can fire on any sensor's data. That breaks the old rule that you can only shoot what your own radar locks. In this web, your shot rides the network, gets mid-course updates from partners, and goes terminal with precision. Take the radar horizon problem. Low sea skimmers try to hide below the ship's curve. An E-2D on station sees them early, builds a fire-quality track, and hands it off. The destroyer never has to radiate. It stays quiet, launches on remote, and the missile rides updates until its own seeker takes over. The defender sees farther without showing its flashlight. The attacker flies blind into a gunfight that already started. In a volley fight, the clock punishes delay. Decoys, dazzlers, and mixed profiles are meant to clog your brain and buy them seconds. The ship that sorts real threats first wins. Aegis was coded for that mess: behavior filters, kinematics checks, seeker status, health of each cell, all weighed in machine time. If a missile breaks lock, the system reassigns another. If a contact fades, it downgrades and pushes resources to the next inbound. No panic. Just routing. Contrast that with a standard surface combatant running local sensors and local calls. That ship depends on what its own mast can see and how fast its team can talk. An Aegis Burke pulls in the combat power of the group, eyes, ears, shooters, so its local picture is a fleet picture. The hull isn't bigger. The brain is plugged into more minds. So the mistake wasn't closing on a US ship. It was closing on a node that makes every other US asset smarter and faster. You challenged the switchboard, not the handset. That's the brain. Now stress it. Run the clock and see what happens when the salvos start. What happens in the first 60 seconds decides the fight. Walk the clock. The run-in is hot. A mixed raid comes in layered and ugly, sea-skimming anti-ship missiles tucked under the curve, 2 high divers on steep tracks, decoys seated to bloom at the worst moment, and a swarm of drones nose in to glare and saturate. The plan isn't subtle. Blind the node. Split the defenses. Drag the human loop behind the timeline and then punch through with speed. The attacker stacks the deck. Low flyers ride the troughs, stealing miles under the radar horizon. High divers drop fast to split the vertical battery. ECM stairs burn into the bands, smear range gates, and try to make the screen lie. You can see the bet, drown the brain in noise. Force local calls. Make the ship fight alone. Can the node hold? 0 to 10 seconds. An off-board cue hits the net. The destroyer stays dark, emission control holds, yet fire quality tracks pop into the console as folders build and cross-check against behavior. You see symbols spread and lock, labels shift from suspect to hostile, and the system assigns tentative weapons without a word spoken. A hello feed pins bearings on the sea skimmers. An airborne sensor pushes quality on the high divers. The ship knows enough. It hasn't shown its hand. 10 to 20 seconds. The outer layer opens. SM-2 and SM-6 leap on remote cues, guided by cooperative engagement. The ship shoots using someone else's eyes, missiles riding data, then grabbing seekers at range. A pair go high to meet the steep divers head-on. Another pair arcs shallow to catch the early sea skimmer group before they can weave into clutter. The VLS doors slam shut. New solutions load. The loop stays hot. 20 to 35 seconds. Mid-layer fights the leakers. Aegis auto-builds a threat stack, rates who lives if ignored, and meters shots to kill by geometry, not ego. ESSM chases the sea skimmers threading wave tops, its seekers cutting through sea return and false blooms. A decoy opens, the system tags the energy shape as wrong and downgrades it. A drone cluster tries to mask an inbound, a quick burst from the gun breaks the mask, and the ESSM goes back to work. The net keeps sorting. 35 to 50 seconds. Hard turn into the last ditch. CIWS spools and chews at the closest threat line while CRAM snaps a short-range intercept on a weaving skimmer that slipped a window. Terminal updates pump to an SM still guiding on a high diver that tried to jink on the way down. Decoy management kicks, Nulka launches and floats away singing like a fat target, chaff blossoms out in timed cuts, and you watch seeker heads bend toward the wrong metal. The hull stays cold. The shots keep landing. 50 to 60 seconds. Damage control stands ready, hatches set, fire mains charged, teams masked, while kills register and new queues flow. The key isn't the intercept count. It's the machine speed loop that queues, shoots, checks effects, and reassigns in seconds, refusing to let one inbound own the clock. One leaker fades when its mid-course updates die. Another loses lock to the decoy and tumbles into the sea. The console clears just enough to show the next wave forming on the edge. The raid was built to swamp a ship. It had to swamp a network. The network didn't blink. Now you see why picking an Aegis Burke is a bad bet. The deeper lesson sits in the silence between launches. The side that closes its kill chain faster writes the fight, and everyone else reacts to a story already told. Superiority at sea comes from a tighter kill chain, not thicker steel. You win when sensors, data, and fires fuse at machine speed. That loop lets one node see wide, act fast, and make every shot count. You felt it when the salvos hit and the network stayed calm. So your choice matters. If you had to ride into a missile storm, Do you take a single-ship brawler or a network node that shoots on shared eyes? Comment your choice below, and subscribe if you want more hard tactical breakdowns. The wrong challenge wasn't about bravery. It was about math. Systems win. The next fight won't wait.